Okay, on the agenda for today is I want to start off with one more point from yesterday about being mavaze talmidei chachamim. If that evolves into something else, fine. Then I want to talk about when he says it's an avon to hate talmidei chachamim. I thought that was interesting, and we didn't really talk about that. And then we'll move on to the next section, which is Nidui. Okay. So we're not going to review the whole halacha, but the avon gadahu levazos es hachachamim olisna osan. Okay, so what was the maskana of yesterday, insofar as we had a maskana of what Bizui talmidei chachamim is? What was it? Yeah, I said what was the maskana of what we said Bizui talmidei chachamim is? Yeah.
Originally, we were just telling Bizui, as we understand, is also with the only youth or particularly interesting thing being has to be in their status of talmidei chachamim. It can't just be like it can't be just like saying like I could insult a rabbi for his fashion choices.
Okay, right, yeah. Undermine their authority, right? I think that was the key thing. So we ended off doing the right, but what we said is that if you, let's say, mock chacham for some non-Torah reason, and that has the effect of undermining their authority, then that might still qualify. Yeah. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah. I guess that's right. It was like it would be okay to, as it was not the isser to insult the fashion choices.
Right. The isser is to undermine their authority, and you could do that via various routes. One of which being. Well, the way we were leaning though was it ended up being that the main part was the effect, not so much the intent, right? Right, even if you don't intend to do that, right? Yeah, but the question is, what are you doing, not why are you doing it? Yeah. Undermining not in their fashion choice, undermine their authority. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we said. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I read to you. So I actually read the wrong thing. Not the wrong thing. I read it in the wrong order. Okay. We went over the Rav's interpretation of the Rambam on Machlish Magidaha, which I just want to reread, and then I want to read a more concise. I read from his speech that he gave in English. I had forgotten that I had taken a citation from Nefesh Harav, which says it. The speech didn't say anything about mavaze talmidei chachamim, but I found something that links it explicitly to that. So here, let's just read the Rambam first, since that's what the Rav is interpreting, even though we read it yesterday. Shlosha hein hakovrim b'Torah. There are three people who are deniers of Torah. Ha'omer she'ein haTorah im Hashem, afilo pasuk echad, afilo teva achas, im amar Moshe amru mipi atzmo, harizeh kover b'Torah. So the first one is someone who says that the Torah is not from Hashem, even one pasuk, even one word. If he says that Moshe said on his own, then he's a kover b'Torah. That's one. V'chein hakover b'ferusha. Also one who denies its perush. Now there are two subcategories. V'hi torah b'al peh. Okay, and this is Torah B'al Peh. So one subcategory, well, I guess one who denies Torah B'al Peh, but there are two ways to do that. One who denies the content of Torah B'al Peh, that's the actual perush. And then the Hilchos Magidaha, one who undermines those who transmit it, who tell it, Kagon Tzadok Ubaisos. Okay. Like Tzadok and Baisos, who denied the authority of the Masorah. Okay. Third category is Ha'omer shehabore hechlif mitzvah zo b'mitzvah acheres ukvar batla Torah zo. One who says that God exchanged one commandment for another. I don't know exactly what that means. If that means that that a commandment changed, like he updated it. Ukvar batla Torah zo, and this Torah is already negated, nullified. Alpha pi shihi haisam imasham. Even if you admit that it was from Hashem. Kagon hanotrim hagarim, like the Christians and the Muslims. Kol achad mishlosha elo kofer b'Torah. Okay, so the question is, what does it mean machachish magidaha, to undermine the authorities? So here is from Nefesh Harav. I don't remember the page, that says. V'shamati Rabbeinu, so this is Rav Schachter writing. I heard from the Rav Zal, b'kesher lemusag hanizkal el, in connection to the concept mentioned above. Sheish chalus shem yuchad al balei hamasora shel haTorah. Oh, this is on page 26. I remember looking it up now. That there is a special chalus shem on the balei Masora of Torah Shebal Peh. Al pi divrei haRambam. So he said this based on the Rambam, which we just read. Shekasav sheshlosh ein hakofrim b'Torah, homer she'ein haTorah min Hashem v'chulei, v'chein hakofr b'Pirusha v'hu Torah Shebal Peh, v'hamachlish magideha. Okay, klomar she'af hamavaze le'echad mechachmei haTorah hayeduim lanu ke'echad mibalei haMasorah. Even one who degrades one of the chachmei haTorah who are known to us to be one of the balei Masorah, lahatiach alav dvarim, to like say things about him, velomar, and to say shehashkafosehem o deosehem hayu geruos, to say that their views or their opinions were inferior, o shilikuyam hayu b'chayehem hapratim, or to say that they were affected by their particular lives, b'nimusin, in like the customs of their society, or b'derech eretz, or in their like societal ways, or in their humanity. Shadino gamken kakover b'Torah Shebal Peh, that this person is also has the din of a kover b'Torah Shebal Peh. So that's what we said before. And so the Rav in the English thing we cited gave examples, but like if you say that Chazal were misogynist and then that affected their psak about nida, or if you say that they're they were whatever. Okay, so what do you think about that as an explanation for the Rambam? Right. It is like what we were saying. However, I will remind you that there are two categories in the Rambam. There is machakish magideha, which makes you a kofer b'Torah and you lose your chelik olam haba mamish. And then there is in the lesser offenses, hamavaze, mavaze talmidei chachamim, hamavaze rabosav, right? Either of those. So that is something different because there you don't actually lose a chelik olam haba, even though it's really bad. Yeah. So to me, like what the Rav is saying might be a good a good like interpretation of mavaze talmidei chachamim. I'm not convinced that it is a good interpretation of machachish magideha, especially because that's not what Tzaddik and Baisos did. Right, Tzaddik and Baisos denied Torah Shebal Peh because they said that they had ideological reasons for denying it. In other words, if the Rambam said v'chein hakofer b'Pirusha v'hi Torah Shebal Peh kigon Tzaddik u'Baisos v'hamachachish magideha kigon, and then he quoted like some other example of people who disparage the authority of Chazal. Like I'd be maybe more open to that idea. You could say that Tzaddik and Baisos are included in both of these, but again, Hilchos Magidaha to me doesn't seem to be what the Rambam is talking about. Yeah.
Sean, I could be saying as though Tzaddik and Baisos had their own Torah Shebal Peh and then they said like the Prushim were wrong and bad.
Right. It could be. It could be. I mean, I'm sure they did. They were machachish the magidim. So that's a good interpretation of that part. That's true. Right. Yeah. They did have to deny the authority of them. Now, so here's what happened. So this morning, so I posted about this on a Facebook group yesterday, and then this morning I got a comment from I don't know if he's Rabbi or Professor Lawrence Kaplan, the one who translates a halachic man. So he agreed. He says. And remember, this is someone who's like a Rav Soloveitchik scholar. So he says, the view of the Rambam is very problematic and not shot in the Rambam. The Rambam is referring to Pirushim and Mikubalim, right? The received Torah Shebal Peh interpretations. 2 points. 1, Moses received them at Sinai from God. And 2, they were transmitted accurately by the sages through the ages. If you deny that either God revealed these oral interpretations at Sinai, or even if you say that God revealed them, but the sages did not transmit them properly, you are a kofar. Note use of phrase of magideha refers to sages as transmitters by or of tradition. In other words, you're a teller of tradition. Nothing to do with the character of the sages or their world outlook. And then he says, I'm sorry to say, but with all my unbounded admiration for the Rav, he is way off here. So and then we went on to have a discussion about how, like, I think if the Rav said this in the context of like a drasha or as a polemic against reform and conservative, I can understand why he would say that. And the Rav has been known to do that before also, of like, essentially darshaning the Rambam as opposed to explaining the Rambam. Yeah.
This Rambam again is one up.
This is in Tשובה, Gimel Ches. Gimel Ches is kofer b'Torah, and then the Mavaze Talmidei Chachamim is in Gimel Yodalad. Yeah. So now I've thought this for years. I've been bothered, with that interpretation of the of Machish Magideha. Like I think a person is certainly mistaken if they think that Chazal's views were influenced by society, in certain ways. But you can't take that too far either, because the Rambam himself says that many of Chazal believed in astrology and magic, and that influenced their views as well. So like how far do you take this? So whereas if you say according to what Lawrence Kaplan is saying, that it means specifically someone who says Chazal were not reliable transmitters of the Torah Sheba'al Peh, that fits in with the Rambam, fits in with the subcategory of kofar. Say again? No, so I think if you said that their psak was influenced by something, then that's not impugning their passing down of Torah Sheba'al Peh. I am acknowledging that might fall into the category of being mavaza then, and it might also undermine their authority. But I don't think that's.
I mean, I wouldn't seem to me that you're implying that when they have some alternative, they are not necessarily from the Torah. It doesn't sound like anything on the Torah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to passing down.
I feel like a classic example, but it's like if anyone like I'm going to go whatever influence and they don't want you to not do it, right?
Right.
That's indictment of them not acting passing down.
But see, let's just be very clear here in terms of when the Rambam says Torah Sheba'al Peh, he is referring to the I know I've quoted this many times. Kol hamitzvot in the Hakdama os Aleph. Kol hamitzvot shnitnu l'Moshe b'Sinah b'Perusha nitnu. Shnemar v'etna l'cha es luchos adin v'Torah mitzvah. Torah zo Torah shebechsav u'mitzvah zo Perusha v'tivanu lasos haTorah al pi mitzvah. So that's talking about mitzvah zo hiat nikras Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's like ayin hachazayin is mamon and priyetz hadar is esrog. And when he's talking about the Bali Masorah, that is how he talks about it. In contrast to saying that when Rashi and Tosfos have a shaila in front of them, then one of them paskins a certain way and is influenced by his times. That's not a matter of Torah Sheba'al Peh and not a matter of being magi Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's a matter of hora. Yeah.
What's the difference? What are you saying is the difference between a Rishon interpreting an Amora and an Amora interpreting a Tana? Or Tana interpreting a Pasuk? Like, what's the difference? Why are you saying the Amora interpreting? Why are you saying the Amora interpreting the Tana as Torah Sheba'al Peh, not the Rishon interpreting the Amora?
They're saying that
right. But so the answer to both questions, I think, is that that saying that let's say, for example, here's a claim that would be Machish Magidah. Let's say you said that, in this little list here, let's say you said that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, right, was, who was a custodian of the Masorah, was, suppressed a halacha that was passed down to him because he would have gone against it. Or let's say, we have this rule that you can only use a gezer shava that you have from Kabbalah. Let's say you said he made up a gezer shava and said that it was passed down from Kabbalah. That's machish magidaha. That's undermining their reliability.
So even our bad members basically saying, like, that's all my father said, he only said that with the influence by whatever was happening.
But that's not saying that he was influenced by whatever was ever happening in the same sense that.
No, but they're saying that they're not using the Torah and the Torah, which is that. Like, I don't know the Torah.
I don't know. I still see a difference. Yeah.
I'll
give another example.
What would the difference in saying that the collective of the rabbis forgot what a word meant until they heard it from a maid?
That's a good question, right? The Rambam would say that, but that's not Torah Sheba'al Peh, though, right? That's a dictionary. If they said that, like, they forgot, I don't know, if they forgot what priyetz hadar was until they heard from a maid, maybe that would be an indictment.
And I guess there's also the thing where apparently who was the only one who knew like 13 to 20 ways through the Torah or something until he forgot it all and amnesia, and they had to go to a shoemaker. I think was it a shoemaker or someone else?
Knew everything ready, nothing overall,
Yeah, but let me give you an example of this. I mean, I said this example before, but I'll be more specific. Like, Chazal thought that spontaneous generation was real, right? And that's why they thought that you could kill a lice on Shabbos, right? Now, I'm going to say this, and if this makes me into a kofar, then so be it. But I think that they were influenced by the universally accepted scientific views of their times, right? It was universally held that spontaneous generation was how things came about, right? And they were wrong on that. All right, they were wrong. Lice cannot spontaneously generate. Okay, but me saying that, and they were right to take that into account because that was the science. That's not at all saying you can't trust their authority in passing down Torah Shabbat Peh. That's a completely different thing, Or I'll give you the other example. I'll give you another example, not in the realm of halacha. The story about, I believe this was the person coming to Hillel for the, I know there's several stories like this about a conversion. And he said, teach me, Torah, but I'm not going to accept the Torah Shabbat Peh, just accept the Torah Shabbat, right? And then so Hillel says, okay, you got to learn Aleph Beis. So he taught him Aleph Beis, and then the guy came back the next day, and Hillel said, and then he taught it to him again, but he taught it to him backwards. The guy said, "What do you mean? Yesterday you taught me Aleph Beis Gimel Dalet, and yes, and today you told me Taf Shin Reish Kuf." And then Hillel says, "Exactly. Just like you're relying on me for the written Torah, you have to rely on me for the oral Torah. That's a matter of relying on the on their passing down."
Oh, the only time when someone was offered for women they don't, it's not really a problem. Right?
Yeah.
Is that not including the hiding the stuff? So some other agenda.
Right, but that's due. You're saying that's due to like a concern about the safety of Jews or whatever, right? I mean, that's also part of the halachic system.
Well, I wasn't saying whether that was valid. I was saying
for example, like we have a rule in Psak of you can't be matmiya as a rabbin, right? Like you can't do something. That's part of the halachic system. That's not being dishonest. Like in terms of reliability, calling into question the reliability. Yeah. So you're asking me for an example? Yeah. So if you said that, so I'll give you the same example I gave before. If you said that that Chazal said it's usher to teach women Torah Shabbat Peh because they hated women, right? So I'm saying that is mevazeh talmidei chachamim, but that's not machlish magideha. Because machlish magideha is denying their reliability in passing down pirushim mikubalim. Pirushim mikubalim means that God told Moshe, "Basukos tesh v'shivas yamim." Sukkah is these dimensions. The schach has to be made with not right, the couple tuma, and it's it is et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And ayin tachas ayin means monetary payments and stuff. That's pirusha mikubalim. That's pirusha. That's Torah Shabbat Peh. Other stuff has to do with how they were more hora'ah, or whether they were straight thinkers, or whether they were doing other stuff. Like that's in the realm of Bizui talmidei chachamim.
I just remember why it's interesting more hora'ah on the right, in order to hora'ah, you have to.
Yeah, but you don't, right? But having the right Masorah does not guarantee they're going to give the right hora'ah.
If someone is erring in their hora'ah, not thinking whatever they mean, thinking they have ulterior motives.
Yeah.
Not also
I don't think so. No. I don't think so, because the Masorah status has to do with whether they are like, you have, for example, you have people, you have the Tanaim, like the ones who are the memorizers, right? Who just pass down raw data. Exactly, right? So if you say that their data is wrong, that's saying that we lost the data of Torah. Torah is like the data of Torah. That's saying that the Torah that God gave to Moshe did not come down to us. That's why he includes in Kofar the Torah.
I want to ask something to make this point out.
Yeah.
And they would also say, oh, he got that person. No.
I'm not sure about that. I'll respond to that in a second. Yeah.
Also, doesn't the Rambam say that those according to the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah, large amounts of the Torah was just straight up lost in the stuff like anything to do with metaphysics, according to the Rambam in the Mishnah Torah, he would say that the Jews had forgotten metaphysics.
But the Rambam is emphatic that nothing from Torah Peh was ever forgotten. Now you don't have to believe him. I know you've expressed your reservations.
Why would Masir Kavaz not part of Torah Peh?
No, it's not. No, it was given at Sinai, but it's not part of Torah Peh according to this definition of Torah Peh. Right? I mean, but that's explicit in Mamrim, right? Like, and actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is a good opportunity for us to just review the way that the Rambam says it. I know we did this earlier in the year also, but Mamrim 1. Divrei Kabbalah ein behen machlokas lolam 1:3. Chol davar shetimsa bo machlokas biyadua she'eno Kabbalah mi Moshe Rabbeinu. Udvarim shalom min hadin im hiskimu Allah. Okay, that's udvarim shalom min hadin. Yeah. So like that's the Kabbalah, right? Yeah. So that's the Rambam's shita, and again he says it even more explicitly. Because I mean, I am assuming here that okay, well, the reason why it's not Masir Merkava is why Masir Merkava is not Torah Peh is because Torah Peh is how to do the mitzvos. I'm taking it from that and the fact that the Rambam does hold that Masir Merkava was lost.
From the second chapter,
that was in the Hakdama that we just read. Is Torah is Torah Shebeksav, mitzvah zo pirusha, v'tzivanu lasos Torah al pi mitzvah, mitzvah zo hinekras Torah Peh, and then in the clear definition that was in the Hakdama to the Persian Nios in the very beginning, where he says, pages are falling out. He says, Dasha kol mitzvah shenasim hakadosh baruch hu l'Moshe Rabbeinu nitna lo im perusha. He hakadosh baruch hu omer lo hamikra ve'af kach omer lo pirusho ubiuro b'chol ma shekala osa mikra hamachukan. So then he talks about the Seder Limud, and then he gives the example. So that's the Torah Shebeksav. V'gam hodio Hashem Yisrael b'shesukah zo chovas hazacharim v'lo hanekevos. Ve'ena chova l'cholim v'lo l'holchei drachim. Ve'ena mesachlin osa ela b'davar hatzameach min ha'aretz. Ve'ena mesachlin osa ela b'tzemer v'lo b'meshi. Sorry, lo b'tever v'lo b'meshi. V'lo b'kelim b'afilu min hatzameach ba'aretz kagon hamach tzalaz v'abagadim. V'ha'achila v'hashriya v'hashena yihiu ba'kol shivas hayamim. Lo yihei chalala pachos mishiva tefachim orech ashiva tefachim rochav. Lo yihei govha pachos me'asar tefachim, etc. So that's the Torah Peh. So I'm saying that Masir Merkava is not this kind of Torah Peh. Yeah. I didn't get that. Okay. Yeah.
Isn't the Rambam saying that there is that people don't forget Kabbalah's Moshe by the minority?
Mm-hmm. But this is not Chule Alma Bekius. This is Rambam Bekius, and so we're trying to understand what the Rambam's.
To me, it just casts aspersion on the whole shita, as in to say, if you have a shita about how good the Masorah is, and most people don't hold them, say shita.
But do you think that the Rambam was an idiot? No, right? So he had to have meant something. So even if you disagree with what he meant, we can try to understand what he meant, which is what we're trying to do here, right? Yeah. Yeah, well, let me go back to your other question. Your question is, wouldn't a person who says that a person's psak was influenced by subjective factors also say that they're not trustworthy to pass something down? And I would say no. And the reason why I would say no is because passing something down is a matter of, do they have a motive to lie versus, actually, let's make a subdivision here. Okay, saying that they willfully made a bad psak because of an ulterior motive, that I would agree is in the category. But saying that they were influenced by Greek society, they were influenced by misogynistic views or whatever, and that crept into their opinions, that's not in that category. I think that would be mavazi, but that would not be machlish, because that doesn't have to do with... Sure.
One said that they willfully shot based on an ulterior motive. That would be
machlish magideha. And sorry, one more thing also, important thing. This is only though in the Balei Masora of Chazal. I would not say that the Rambam means that about Rashi and Tosfos, whereas the Rav does say that. Because Magideha still is in the realm of transmitting Torah Shabbat Peh. Say it again? Yeah, right. Right. Torah Shabbat Peh, whatever Torah Shabbat Peh is written down in books, and that's not a thing. Yeah. Yeah. And then again, I'm also taking that from the fact that the Magidim of Torah Shabbat Peh are all listed here by the Rambam from Moshe Rabbeinu through Ravina and Ravashi. That's the Masorah of Torah Shabbat Peh. And then after that, then things split off and went in different positions. Yeah. Okay. All right. So again, not that we all have to agree that this is the truth, but the question is, what does the Rambam mean? Yeah, right. Okay. All right. So next issue is hating talmidei chachamim, right? So he says it's an avon to hate them. So I wanted to know, what would be the measure of whether you're over this isser or this avon? Okay, is any how much hatred do you have to have in order to? What was that? Yeah. Yeah, so that gets to an issue that we talked about last year, which is there such a thing as an isser to does the Torah ever prohibit emotions, right? And the lashon he uses here does not seem like he's saying that, because he says avon, which I don't think avon is a lashon of avon includes imperfections, not just yeah. But if you did say that this was like a halachic thing, what would the answer be? In case that's the case. And there actually is an objective answer about at what point does your hatred of somebody make you violate an isser. And there is what mitzvah would you go to find the answer to that? There's a lo saseh midoraisa. That's going to have a halachic shiur for hatred.
Your brother,
yes, that's the one. Lo sisna sachil b'vavacha. Yeah, okay, right. So let's just quickly review that halacha. The Rambam writes in Deos 6:5, Kol hasoneh echad Yisrael b'libo over b'lo saseh. Anyone who hates a Jew in his heart is over lo saseh. Shnemar, as it says, lo sisna sachil b'vavacha. Ve'in lokin alav zeh lefi she'ein bo ma'aseh. And you don't get malchus because there's no ma'aseh. The Torah only prohibits hatred that is in the heart. If you hit your friend or if you insult him, even though you're not allowed to, then you're not over because of lo sisna, right? So we haven't gotten there yet, but so just to clarify though, the isser is to hold in the hatred, right? If you let it out, you might be violating other isurim, but you're not over this one. Okay, but then he says he goes on, when a person sins against another, he should not hold it in and be quiet. As it says by Rishayim, v'lo diber Avshalom im Amnon l'meiravi atov. Ki sane Avshalom as Amnon. Avshalom did not speak with Amnon, neither for bad nor for good, because Avshalom hated Amnon. Okay, and then he segues into the mitzvah of tochacha. So the answer that I heard was the degree of hatred that would make you over the Isser is if you hate the person so much that you refuse to talk to them. Okay, now I thought I'll show you where I saw that. Okay, and I was convinced of the answer from where I saw it, but I was not convinced that this is what the Rambam held. Okay, I'll show you. Yud Tes, like Yud Tes, Yud Zion. This is in last week's parsha. Can you say something?
No.
Okay, so the Rambam, I got this from the Rambam. The Rambam says, Rambam in the Rotalamar Afa Pish lo Yazik lo Klal, even though you don't harm him at all. Kevin Shasone also Belibo over al Zos Azhara. Bina Tuelas Zos Azhara Mavur, Kiasina, Efshar Shitvihu Limanea Mihishtalos Matsalaso. Wait, does he say it here? Hold on. Huh. I thought he quoted it. Okay. Maybe I didn't get it from him. I thought I got it from him, but maybe it wasn't from here. But anyway, I wasn't sure. Like, it's true that the Rambam brings down Amnon and Tamar, but I wasn't sure if that's what he held is the actual Isser until this Shabbos. I found a place that supports this in the Rambam, which is not what you would expect. It's in Hilchos, רוצח ושמירת הנפש by unintentional murders. Okay, so basic halacha is if you murder someone b'shogeg, you go to iyun miklat, but it has to be the middle level of shogeg. There's shogeg that's kar of lamezid, where you're not going to get to iyun miklat there, and then the shogeg kar of laones, where you don't have to go to iyun miklat. Okay, so it's the middle one. But then there's this halacha hasone shahara b'shgaga. If an enemy kills his enemy b'shgaga, eno niklat, he does not go to the iyun miklat. Shnemar v'hulos oyev lo. The pasuk openly says he was not an enemy to him. Chezkaso shu karav lemezid. So the chazaka is if you are enemies with someone and you accidentally kill them, the chazaka is that you did it on purpose. Okay, or there's purposefulness in there. But then he defines it. The ezehu sone. So if you don't speak with him 3 days because of the hatred, okay. Now, no, it's not right. It's not. So, I'm not saying necessarily that you have to link these two areas of halacha, but given what the Rambam said in Hilchos Deos, that it's you should not be silent, rather you should talk to the guy, and that's sisna es achicha, and here it's sone. It stands to reason that it'd be the same thing, which answers a very good question that I've had on practically, which is sometimes someone does something to you and you get really mad. And, my dad's advice is always to sleep on it and then you feel different the next day. I kind of wondered, are you allowed to sleep on it? Like, if you get to this point where you just don't want to talk to him, then like, are you over? So if we take this wrong as actual psak, it means you got 3 days. Or if you don't cool off, you're getting to the third day, then you better talk to the guy, otherwise you're gonna be over low now. But just in the heat of the moment, no, you don't. In fact, you don't want to talk to the guy right when he insulted your mother. Like, that doesn't mean that you're over on low season.
I imagine it wouldn't be amended anyway.
No. Yeah, right. Probably a good idea to wait. Yeah. Okay. So that takes care of that. Okay. Are we ready to go on to the new halacha about Nidui?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, and again, this is still going to be in the area of Bizui, talmidei, chachamim, but now we're just transitioning into formal things. Okay. Afal pi, this is halacha yud beis. Afal pi shehamavaze es chachamim ein lo chelek l'olam haba. Okay. Now, even though someone who's mavaze talmidei chachamim has no chelek l'olam haba, so you think that that's the worst of it, but no. Impal edim shebizuhu. If edim come to say that they degraded him, afilu b'dvarim, even verbally, chayav nidui. You also get. I think the lashon of afal pi is like you would think that would be the ultimate loss.
Even though he doesn't have
I'll tell you the afal pi because another afal pi that comes to mind in Hilchos Deos Vav. It's not exactly afal pi, but let me see. I don't even know if this is going to be relevant. by Zion, by Lashon Hara and Rechilus. He says, yeah, the alpha p she'ain. No, that's the different kind of alpha p. Never mind. Scratch it. Strike it. Yeah, that one makes sense. Yeah. It's a good question. All right, let's finish reading the halacha, and we'll try to come back to that. How do you translate? I always forget nidui and cherem. I know there's excommunication and ostracism. I think ostracism is more of a better translation for nidui, right? I guess we'll have to read the definitions, but yeah. All right, fine. Yeah. I'm not familiar with these either. So anyway, you get nidui. We'll just not translate it for now. Umanadin also based in barabim, and Basin puts him in nidui in public. The kontin also litra zahav b'chomakom, and then they fine him a monetary fine of a litra of zahav in every place. V'nosnim also l'chacham, and the chacham gets the money. Okay, let's actually look at the makbili here. Afilu b'devarim, afilu rak b'dibor. Okay, meaning being b'vazeh in this is a raya to something, right? I don't know about you. I was assuming that the bizui that we've been talking about the whole time is bedibor.
I mean, we've been talking about it earlier.
Right. So does this change our definition of bizui though? Because let's say you like, here's a bizui, right? Let's say like the chacham comes into shul and all the seats are taken, and like he asks if you can have your seat, and you like shake your head or something like that, you know? Not giving him kavod, right? Like that would presumably be bizui, right? If he's not mochel, yeah, right. So not standing up for him, not like giving him priority in sales and stuff, right? Yeah. Okay, so that does not. I don't think it changes either. I think it just widens the scope of the activities that can fall into this. Like in other words, if you are. Let's say your people are not treating the chachamim in that society with respect, so that does undermine their authority, right? Not in a machish magideha way, but in a bizui way, you know? Right. Yeah. Okay. So chayav nidui harchaka chevrasis. Okay, yeah, social distancing, right? Harchaka chevrasis. I can never pronounce that word. Ostracization. Yeah. Because he blemished the kavod Torah. The kontin also, and they give him a knas. And then it says in Sanhedrin 26:5, umakin ha'onshin also kfi mashiru. So they can. Are you asking about the knas part? Knas seems like just this type of nidui, but we'll have to see if it applies. Yeah, right. So I think it's just this type because it's you pay it to the chacham. Yeah, right. Let's assume that for now, and then we see the other types that'll be different. Okay, now this is the part that shocked me. Litra. How much is a litra? Shlosha v'chamisha dinar. Okay, so 35 dinar. That's from Chol Mazik. Matbayos zahav tahor b'shibish kalam ki 148 grams. So pure gold, it would be 148 grams. So I was looking at this calculator thing. Okay, calculateme.com. So if you go to materials, value, if you go weight to value, and then you go to grams, and then you go to gold, and you go to 148 grams, that is $8,900.
Is that right?
That's today, right. So, and then, so I checked, first of all, I checked to make sure that Rav Makbili's thing is legit, or at least is, not legit, but maybe it's maybe there were multiple opinions. So I looked on Chabad.org. So Rabbi Tauger says a litra is a talmidei measure equal to approximately 168 grams. Okay, so 160 even more. So 168 would be $10,000. Okay, so then I asked, so I asked on Facebook in the group of so again, you probably know this because you're on Facebook. Ask the Beit Midrash and then Ask the Beit Midrash Light Moderation. Those are my two favorite places to ask questions. So I asked I need a fact check. I'm going to show you the responses. I need a fact check according to the Rambam in blah, 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 blah. Okay. Does this sound right or am I missing something? And then I put this thing because this is true. Whenever I calculate talmidic weights and measures, I'm always afraid I've made a basic mistake, which is going to cause some historian or some economist or some metallurgist to pop up his or her head and say, idiot, don't you know that when it says gold, it doesn't mean gold, but something diluted, something times have changed, something speculation. How could you be so foolish? That's why I wanted to check. Okay. So sure enough, so we got one person who quoted Aryeh Carmel's Aiding Talmud study, who says 35 dinar is a rent for a house for 8.75 months at one seller equals 4 dinar per month. So yes, $9,000 sounds reasonable. Okay, then someone else came and said the historian thing. I don't get this. Gold coins were not widely used in Roman times. The main coin was the silver denarius, which would translate to dinar. The gold coin was the aureus. Okay, and I said, see, you're the type of historian that I was expecting to pop up. So then he says, Persia had gold dinars during Sassanid times, but they also mostly used silver coins as well. Gold coins, and they were called dinars, really took off as currency during the Umayyad Caliphate. Europe would not see them widely used for another 800 years. Okay, fine. So, and then someone else said the fact is that the relative worth of precious metals is varied through time. Okay, that's also true. And I was just asking for a ballpark. And then the historian guy chimed in again, said in the 16th century, the price of gold and silver, particularly silver, plummeted as the Spanish flooded Europe with the production from Mexican and Peruvian mines. Now that's a big factor, right? Like that was a huge influx of gold. Unfortunately, the Spanish spend most of their new wealth on bloody wars, often in the name of God, sad face. Yeah. So I don't know how much this is, but it does sound like, I mean, even if it's 148 grams of gold and gold is not worth what it is now, it seems like it was a lot. Right.
I like how one wrong calculated is 1.5 right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, that certainly varied over time. You would expect. So the I guess the modern analogy here would be that when people sue each other for libel, and it's like in the millions of dollars, and the ordinary person looks at it and is like, really? You know, I feel like that's the type of reaction that you would have to like, I didn't stand up for the Talmud Chacham, and like, you know, it was Pogea b'his kavod. Like I get sued. Yeah, it does. Yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying like it's an eye-opening amount, and I think that's.
That's the point.
Yeah, that is the point. Right. Yeah. Okay, so I thought that was interesting. Okay, then v'hamavaze es hachacham b'devarim, someone who disparages, we never ended up translating mavaze. Degrades. I think degrades is probably the best umbrella term, right? Someone who
I'm not one because I said
okay, good. All right. Someone who's mavaze chacham with words afilu la'achar moso. Okay. Even after his death, manadin also based in. I guess we got to go delete all the Bahag statements. No, that was in the context of the Rambam. Then the Bastian is puts him in Nidui. Vehin matirin also kishiyachar b'tshuva, and they can release him when he returns in tshuva. Aval im haya hachacham chai, if the chacham is alive, in matirin also ad shiratze zeh sheniduhu b'shvilo. We do not release him until he appeases the one who he is ostracized on account of. And then Rav Makbili says shiratze is shiyafayis hamavaze es chacham, that the mavaze has to appease the chacham. But then he says v'yesh menachdim sheyirtze. Some say it means sheyirtze, meaning that the chacham wants to release him. Okay, I think yiratze makes much more sense, that he has to like do tshuva b'nam l'chavera and appease him. Umuvan sheni duyo muter rach la'achar shechazar b'tshuva gam klapi Hashem. It's clear that his nidui is only released after he's done teshuva vis-a-vis Hashem also, because it's really a being adam l'makom also, because you're being mavaza Torah. Yeah, okay. So weird thing, by the way, is that the Rambam does not start off by defining nidui, right? He segues from kavod chachamim in chapter 6 to bizui chachamim to, if the bizui happens, you could put them in nidui. But he's talking about nidui as though we already know what it is. And I think he might not even define nidui until the next parak. Yeah. Yeah, right. So I just think that's an interesting like writing decision, you know? And I mean, again, it's even strange to me that he keeps all of this in parak vav. You could make an argument for saying he should start a new parak from about bizui and nidui. Yeah, Yosef?
Well, what does it mean to even define nidui? Like, you mean to say the whole
right. What does it mean to get nidui, and then how do they do it? Like, what's the procedure? You know, like he says here, they do it in public, but like, what does that mean? Does it like, I hereby declare you menuda? You know? Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I only familiar with this
Right. Minion stuff. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I do think it's interesting, like that we don't know what it is yet.
Some sort of thing that is not really intended for someone to learn the Torah in order, but just knowing the necessary.
Well, here's the thing: is I'm fine with saying that the Mishnah Torah is not necessarily meant to be learned in order, but saying that the Hilchos Talmud Torah is not meant to be learned in order is a little weird, you know.
Well, maybe Nidui isn't necessarily a whole sort of thing.
That could be. It could be that. Yeah. I mean, he could have put Nidui. For all we know, he could put Nidui in Mamrim.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
Okay. It could also just be that for this part, you only need a vague idea, but Nidui is just not the specifics.
Right. Yeah. You don't need the definition yet. That's another argument. Yeah.
You sort of need to know something bad can't be with people.
Right. Right. This is, I guess, a universal question as well. I think I brought this up last year, which is in various areas of halacha with entities. Sometimes the Rambam defines the entity first and then says the mitzvah, and sometimes he says the mitzvah and then defines the entity. You know? Yeah, right. So like, and Rav Pesach once had a theory about when he does which one, but Rav Pesach's theory was only about mitzvos with entities. But similar sort of thing here. You know, you could see him going both ways. Okay. Let's go on. Wait, do we need to go on? Anything we missed here? After the B'dvarim, we talked about that. Barabim. So it makes sense that you do Barabim, right? Because if, you know, chavurah Torah is, well, two things. If the chavurah Torah was, if the Bizui took place at Barabim, then it certainly makes sense to have it Barabim. But even if it didn't take place Barabim, we want to strengthen chavurah Torah in the eyes of the public. So it should make sense that it's a public thing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. V'chein hachacham atzmo menada l'chvodo. A chacham can also be menada for his own kavod, meaning not just Adim reporting it to Beis Din. La'am haaretz shehifkir bo, to an am haaretz who, now hifkir here does not mean he was mafkir property to him, but it must be he acted lawlessly vis-a-vis him, probably, right? Yeah, well, okay, hifkir, right? He acted in an unrestrained way towards him. The enot sarach lo edim lo hazran. He does not need witnesses or or warning. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I don't like this character, but Doctor Strange in the Marvel movies. You know the thing he does, like with the like the magic. I always picture when a chacham is menada someone that he does like a like some sort of like a ceremony that like involves like special effects. Okay, the in matirin lo ad shiratze es hachacham, and he may not. We don't matir him until the chacham is appeased by him. V'im mesa chacham, and the chacham dies, bain shlosha matirin lo, then three can come and be matir him. V'im ratza chacham limcho lo. And if the chacham wants to be mochel him and to not be menada him, then he has the permission. Now, why does the Rambam have to say that? Yeah?
The chacham can't be mochel on his kavod.
Close.
Or can't be mochel on the kavod.
Exactly, right. So that's the question: is this a matter of his kavod or is it a matter of the kavod of Torah? So when the Rambam says he can be mochel, then that implies that it's his kavod, right? Yeah, you had the right idea. Okay. Yeah. So this is another interesting thing, which is that this is not a function of Beis Din per se. The fact that the chacham could do it himself, right? This is something that Beis Din is like has authority over. But it really is, since it's the chacham's kavod, then presumably the right to nidui stems from his kavod. Yeah.
Also, the way for does that mean to say that the chacham cannot be menada another chacham?
That's in the fact that he says am haaretz.
Yeah, as in to say like you can't have the ground the ball shouldn't be menada each other.
That's interesting. That's a good question why he says am haaretz, because you would think it wouldn't be limited, right? Because there were definitely cases, even in the time of Chazal, where chachamim were perceived to treat each other disrespectfully, right? And yeah, so let's see. I think he might address this in the next halacha. Oh, maybe not. No, that's a good question though. Amar, I mean, I feel like it's just an example, but I hear your point. Like, why would he mention it that way? Unless that's the lashon the Gemara uses. Yeah.
I was wondering, can chacham be considered to be doing bizui for the talmidei chacham?
I think so. Yeah.
So does the Rambam doing that with like the hog as well as the people who called him
right?
Like, both the people Rambam called idiots and the people who called Rambam,
right? Yeah.
Like we're in the Rambam saying, okay, you're kofrim,
right. So I think that's a topic. I don't know if we talked about that last year, but the tradition among chachamim Yisrael to use harsh language with each other, right? And how like that is a thing that goes way back,
We definitely talked about it. At least one thing
right. Yeah. Well, we read the example of that, but do we address that issue? You know who talks about it? Interestingly enough, the Chavetz Chaim in the Sefer Chavetz Chaim has a section about that phenomenon, about like the fact that why would Chazal talk about each other that way? I don't remember what he says, but it might be interesting to look at. Yeah. So you would think, I'm not saying this based on the Rambam. I'm saying, well, maybe I am. You would think, just from the ubiquity of that practice, that that's not considered to be a bizui of chachamim. But the question is, why not?
I think there are examples in I think we can go
Yeah. Even in this way, you mean? Even in the like, we're just arguing really forcefully. All right. So that would be something that we could look for and take up if we're interested. Yeah, because certainly when someone who's not familiar with the culture of Talmud Torah hears it, it sounds like Bizui. And the way we've been taking it is like, if anything, has the effect of undermining their authority, you would think it is Bizui, right? Yeah.
Well, unless you say that each generation the chachamim just held that the other chachamim were not worthy of respect.
No, I don't think that you definitely can't say, because there's so many instances where they say explicitly about the people who they're writing against, I have the utmost respect for this person. And the Ramban does that with Baal.
I feel like the most. I respect it with the utmost respect.
Yeah.
Also, I hate the other one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Will he do will he call those people idiots still?
What I'm trying to remember is when the Ramban in his Hakdama to the Milchamos Hashem on the Rif says this about the Baal HaMa'or and about how he doesn't like the fact that the Baal HaMa'or attacked the Rif. I think he talked about this issue also. I have to look at it again. Yeah. And then this might be a naive question. The Ravid didn't write a Hakdama to the Hasagos Ravid, did he? I mean, we should look at that also, because if he says explicitly why he's talking about the Rambam in such harsh terms, then that would be good to know. Yeah. All right. So this is stuff I need to do research on before we find stuff to present. Okay. Harav Shenida Lichvoda, the Rav who was Menadeh for his own kavod, Chayavim Kol Talmidav Linhog Nidui Bamenuda. Then all of his Talmidim are obligated to conduct themselves with Nidui, with the guy who was Menuda. Yeah. Funny. It says, Rambam Bekius says, yeah, Rambam Bekius says, Talmid Shenida, oh, sorry. Yeah, we didn't read that yet. About Talmid Shenida L'chavod Atmo, a Talmid who is Nida for his own kavod, Ein Harav Chayav Linhog Bo Nidui. The Rav is not obligated to respect that Nidui. About Kol Ha'am Chayav Linhog Bo Nidui, but the rest of the people do. Interesting. V'chein menuda lanasi. Same thing with someone who's menuda to the nasi. Menuda l'chol Yisrael. He's menuda to everyone. Menuda l'chol Yisrael. Inu menuda lanasi. But someone who's menuda to all of Israel is not menuda to the nasi. I don't know. We're going to read them. We'll have to read them makbili. Menuda li'iro. Menuda li'ira cheres. See, at this point, I feel like you should have defined Nidui, right? Okay, but if you're menuda to your city, you are menuda to another ear. That's surprising to me. Menuda le'ir acheres, ino menuda le'iro. Okay, now I have no idea.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's read Makbili and see if this sheds any light here. Talmid Shenida. Hadvarim amurim b'talmid shehu chacham ela shadayin rabo kayam. So it's not any student; it's a talmid who is a chacham. V'chein menuda lanasi hu nasi Sanhedrin. That's the leader of the Sanhedrin. Shehivgia b'chavodo who he impinged on his kavod, he pigia b'chol Yisrael. That is impinging on all of Israel. Menuda le'iro, menuda le'ira acheres, ki im eno hagun la'anshe iro, if he's not considered proper by his own city, vadai eno hagun gam la'anshe ira acheres. Certainly he's not considered fit for another city. Val im niduhu anshe ira acheres, but if people in another city put him in nidui, ain't anshe iro chayavim l'kabel nidui zeh. The people in his own city are not obligated to honor it. That makes sense. Kivin sheim makirin as ish. They know the guy. Hu yadua etzlam adam hagun. They know him as a good guy. Yitachen shenotzar betaus roshen lo nachon etzel anshe ha'ira acheres. It's possible that this impression was created by mistake by another people. I'm going to give an example of this that I have to turn off the recording for. Yeah. So menuda l'chol Yisrael would mean. You mean how do you become menuda l'chol Yisrael? Is what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Metzius is.
Yeah, I don't know what the Metzius is, and I don't know the reasoning. Yeah.
There's also sort of similar doing kavod, whereas there's like the Talmud. I mean, he's menuda to you, like everyone else has to give kavod to him, so they also have to sort of, and through his kavod, be menuda to that guy. Like the Talmud's Rav, because the Talmud's kavod is comes through the Masorah, comes through the Rav, like all the way up the Masorah chain. So the Rav can be mochel on his Talmud's kavod and ignore the menuda. And then the Nasi could be mochel on the alms kavod and menuda.
That's interesting. Let me process that for a second. So I understand it in the case of the Talmud and the Rav that there's a default assumption, I guess, that if you impugn the Talmud's kavod, then it's going to affect the Rav, right? That's what you're saying. But then the Rav can say, okay, but this is my kavod, I can be mochel it, and I don't have to acknowledge your nidui. But then the question is for Kol Yisrael, which somehow the Nasi represents, how would it? Oh, so he has the right to be mochel, right? Meaning the default assumption is like this is a loose example, but let's say like there's some public event and some like public figure makes a statement about a certain ethnicity or a certain country's people, right? So by default, that would be an insult to the president of the country. But if the president of the country says like, I don't take it personally, okay, he's entitled. Yeah.
I was realizing for your visiting, this doesn't work out at all. Like somehow like you are beholden to your ear for kavod. Well, I'm not quite sure how well that works out. So that therefore your ear could be vocal other cities, but
wait, hold on. I just want to make sure I understand what Yosef said.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what idea. It was just somehow that your ear for you is you're beholden to your ear for kavod, so therefore it can be vocal from other cities.
Well, it sounds like the way Rambam Bekius is taking it, which makes sense to me, is that the nidui. If the nidui is coming from your own ear, it's pretty reliable that they know what they're talking about. But if it's coming from another ear, then there's a chance that they don't know what they're talking about. So your own city doesn't have to respect it. And if it turns out that it's true, then your own city would put you in nidui, presumably. Yeah.
Okay. This is all about kavod.
Yeah.
What does it mean not kavod of the city?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. We're definitely out. Right. I mean, there's no mitzvah of kavod ha'ir. There's a kavod talmidei chachamim, but not kavod ha'ir. Right. Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, where's the concept of nidui for ir come in? Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we do need the definition of nidui for this, or we need to at least. Yeah. All right, so let's read the next halacha and then we'll stop for today and then come back to it. B'mei davar mamurim. When are we talking about? B'misha niduhu mipnei shebiza talmidei chachamim. That's only if you were put in nidui because you were mavaza talmidei chachamim. Well, misha niduhu al shar davarim. But if you're menada someone for other things, shechayavim alehem nidui, that you're chayav nidui on, afilu nidahu katon shebi Yisrael. Even if a small person, I don't think this is a katan like a kid, even a low-level person is menada you, chayav hanasi v'chol Yisrael linhog bo nidui. Ad sheyachzor l'shuva midavar sheniduhu b'shvila v'yatira lo. All right, opens the floodgates. Okay. You get a nidui. You get a nidui. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not kavod like iyun or kavod like it is kavod like
Yes, right. Meaning, okay, right. So here's what I suspect, and we'll have to see if the list plays out. I suspect that Nidui is a tool that could be used for several different functions. One of those functions is to enforce chavurah Torah, but you could put someone in Nidui if they refuse to put on a mask in 2020, right? You know, like in other words, like there's other things you could do for Nidui, or if someone is yeah, I mean he's going to give it the yeah, right, okay, all right. So let's plan to pick up tomorrow. Okay, stop.